Hello. Welcome back to the podcast. It's going to be okay. My name is Nicky Asher-Bowling, and I'm coming to you from my living room. So, today I am going to talk about your faith and having faith and then living your life, and even when your life feels like it's too heavy for you. So, if you've ever felt like your faith is real, but your life is heavy, then stay tuned, keep listening, because my life feels like that all the time. So, I know if mine does, and yours does too. But today, I just want to talk to you about what it means to live a faithful life without having to pretend, to acknowledge the real pressure that you live under, to believe in recovery that is slow, steady, and sustainable. And so, recovery meaning depression, anxiety. That's normally what I talk about. Recovery could be anything for you. You could have a physical illness or whatever, but I normally talk about depression and anxiety, but it could be anything that you're going through. But it isn't an episode about fixing yourself. It's just about permission to be honest with God, to name what's hard in your life, to take small steps toward hope without being ashamed about that. So we're going to start there. So I have several points I'm going to be going through. So the first one is faith without pretending. Faith doesn't require performance. You don't have to do anything. It doesn't demand that you silence your pain or clean yourself up before you come to God. So that's the awesome thing about having faith. You don't have to be 100% perfect. Scripture gives us permission to bring our whole selves, not just our polished parts. So Psalms 34:18 states, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted. He rescues those whose spirits are crushed." We don't have to be, like I said, 100% perfect. We just need to be presentable to God. God draws near to honesty, not our appearances. If you're struggling with depression, anxiety, burnout, or grief, that does not mean your faith is weak. It just means you're a human being. Faith without pretending allows prayer to sound like, "God, I'm tired," instead of a forced gratitude. And that's what God wants. He just wants you to say, "Okay, today I'm tired. God, I need some help with this." And plain speak with God is usually the best thing that you can do. We don't have to have colorful words or poetry or anything when you talk to God. Just tell him what's on your heart and how you're feeling. Struggle is not a failure of belief. Sometimes it's just a place where belief is deepens. So point number 2, life under pressure is real. So we all struggle with this. We all have our own daily pressures that we have to deal with. Let me get back up here to this. So many of us aren't just tired emotionally, we're under constant practical pressures. Usually this happens when we've not set routines in place, where we have outside things happening in our lives that are causing us pressures, like work or school, kids. It could be like in-laws or just like intermediate families. It could be really anything. You could have pressure at home, or you could have pressure with money, pressure in family relationships. So like I've had my siblings I don't have good relationships with them. Sometimes when I try, I just puke all over it and just mess it up. Pressure to hold everything together while quietly falling apart. Some of us are quietly falling apart. Other of us are running their mouths all the time. I have to speak everything out. So I'm always talking about things. So Jesus never minimized this kind of weight. He never said, yeah, don't come to me with these problems. He never said that. Matthew 11:28, he says, come to me, all of you who are weary and carry heavy burdens, and I will give you rest. He said that. He said, come to me with your burdens. I want to help you. But what do we do? What do human beings do? I don't know how many times I've talked to people and they're like, once I get this situation under control, then I will come to church. When I take care of this issue, then I will come to church. They think that they have to have their life perfectly under control before they will come to church or before they will start serving God. And that's not how it works. God doesn't wait for you to have your life under control. Usually when someone like starts serving the Lord, something horribly or terrible has happened in their life, and it's the straw that has broken the camel's back and they can't take it anymore. And that's just how human beings are. That's just how we operate. So notice he didn't say, come to me once you figured it out. God has never said that. He said, come now when you're weary. You're tired now. You should come see me now. Come talk to me now. He's ready for us now. So life under pressure often calls for boundaries, structure, and support, not more self-criticism. Human beings are we've got enough critics, and then we are our own number one critic, right? So we do not need another self-critic, and God is not a critic. He's not going to criticize us. So naming the pressure is always the first step toward relief. I know, like when I am having a lot of problems or I'm feeling stressed or having a lot of overwhelm, if I will just sit down and write out a list of the issues that are going on in my life or do a brain dump, when I do a free workshop, that's one of the first things that we do is do a brain dump. It is such a relief. Now, I remember the very first time I did a brain dump with my coach that has helped me over the years. It was so hard. It was so hard for me to do that because I was at a place where I was feeling so overwhelmed. I had so many things going on in my life. I felt so out of control. I could not even think about a list of words to write down on a piece of paper. But you eventually get there. Okay, number 3, steady recovery over quick fixes. So quick fixes are fine, but you have to put a plan in place so that because you got to think about the long game, the long-term goals, because a quick fix, isn't going to fix that problem because that problem is still going to be there. We live in a culture that wants instant healing. And I've learned the hard way that quick fixes, the microwave, things that you can put in your life, they don't work. The things that I talk about on my podcast and that I do in my coaching, it's not rocket science. The stuff that I talk about is easy things that you can do. But it's hard work because when you're dealing with depression and anxiety, you have to be very intentional about what you're doing. And that's not easy, but especially when you're on medication, and the medication that you take, a lot of it numbs you so that your nervous system is not feeling overwhelmed by the stresses that are imploding in your life and that keep coming in. And so the medication numbs you to that. And so you have to be very mentally intentional about remembering to do these things and creating a new habit and routine to improve your life. And that's hard work for someone dealing with depression. And when I say depression, it could be any type of mood disorder, emotional disorder, or behavioral disorder, anything along those lines. It doesn't just have to be depression. It could be any new habit that you're wanting to create. It could be anything that you're wanting to improve in some area of your life. Okay, however, so like I said, we live in a culture that wants instant healing, but God often works in process. So God doesn't just, when we say God works in our life, he doesn't just say, okay, Nikki, this is what I want you to do. Here's all the steps and here's the end goal. He doesn't do that because we are not at a place. Here, Nora, get up. We're not at a place where we can handle, first of all, knowing the end goal, especially when you're someone who's like an introvert and doesn't like to go out and do things in the long term. He was to tell me I would be on a podcast and a video talking to people about this stuff. I would have completely freaked out and never done any of it. But, so he doesn't tell you all the steps. He gives you the baby steps and tells you to do the first thing first. Okay? And so that first thing I had to do was reach out to someone I barely knew who said they could help me get my life organized when I was going through a really bad time in the period of my life in my family. And that took a lot of faith for me and trust to put in my coach. I didn't know who she was at the time. I knew who she was, but I didn't know her personally. That took a lot of effort for me to do that because I didn't know her. Now, over the years, I got to know her, and she would be one of my ride or die people if my husband wasn't with me. So God doesn't tell you all the steps because we wouldn't be able to handle all that information. Okay, recovery doesn't usually arrive in dramatic breakthroughs. Thank goodness, because some of us can't handle any more drama in our lives. It comes through small steps, consistent care, safe routines, learning how to calm your nervous system when life feels overwhelming. One of the things that my coach taught us is once we found peace in our life is you do everything to protect your peace. And I tell you what, there are some things I will never go back to doing because it would bring havoc into my life and I would not have peace anymore. So I would do everything to protect my peace. Proverbs 4:18, the way of the righteous is like the first gleam of dawn, which shines ever brighter into the full light of day. Healing brightens gradually. Steady recovery honors your limits. It allows you to heal without rushing, without comparison, and without shame, because we are each on our own journey. We can't compare ourselves to each other. When I did my soak this morning with my online Bible study group, my prayer was, I was so thankful that God lets me heal and lets me learn things at my own pace. He has a plan for each of us, a plan that could be, each of us, our plan could be very minuscule or it could be very huge. It just depends who you are as a person. But for my life, whatever that my plan is, the things that I do in my personal life, he lets me go at my own pace. And now sometimes he nudges me along when he sees I'm starting to get a little like afraid to do things. However, he's never rude. God's never rude, right? So aren't you glad about that? But I know I'm glad about that. Point number 4, you were never meant to do this alone. Oh, thank goodness. So, isolation makes everything heavier. How many of us have felt so alone in our lives? I grew up in a family of 5 children with a single parent and a live-in boyfriend. My mom had a live-in boyfriend, and I, growing up, felt so alone. My sister and I, we went to church. All of us went to church at different points in our life, but as teenagers, my one sister and I, we went to church regularly. And I felt so alone as a teenager, as a young adult. And then when I was got married, and then my husband, he was in the faith, and then he left, and then we divorced, and then I just felt very alone after that. There was so many points in my life where I felt very alone and isolated. And it didn't help that I was an introvert. It didn't help that at all. God designed healing to happen in connection with Him and with others. So He made humans to connect, that for us to connect with each other. So Galatians 6:2, share each other's burdens and in this way obey the law of Christ. He made this a law that we had to obey, to share each other's burdens. If you have a burden, you need to share it with someone that you can trust. If you don't have anybody, you need to reach out to me. And sometimes it's easier to share a burden with a stranger. And I think that's why I was able to connect with my coach, because she didn't really know who I was. I was able just to talk freely. And when I realized that when we started doing our sessions, that she was just there for me. It's kind of going to a counselor or a therapist. They don't know who you are, but they're just there for you, and you can just speak freely. I think that was just so amazing. And I was able just to lay my heart out and they were non-judgmental about it. Support isn't weakness. A lot of us feel like we're weak if we have to lean on somebody else. I think because that I grew up in a time where my mom was not very dependent on other people. And so she did not teach us to be dependent on each other. We had to be independent. And so we never, and I don't think she meant to do that intentionally. I just don't think she knew how to do that. And so we never learned how to share our feelings and how to talk things out. So all I knew from a learned behavior was how to yell, because that's what she did. And a lot of times being sad and scared came out as mad and angry outbursts. So if one of my kids had fallen and got hurt, I would get mad and spank them on the leg because they fell and got hurt. But I was scared and I didn't know how to properly pick the kid up, the toddler up, and be like, oh my God, you scared me so much. Please don't do that again. I know that's a simple thing. Like today when I say it, it seems so elementary, but I didn't know how to do that. Coaching, counseling, community, and spiritual care are often the tools God uses to carry us forward when we don't have the strength ourselves. So it's good to go to Him in prayer for those things, because even when we feel like we are still carrying it alone, God is actually protecting us and helping us through those situations. So asking for help is not giving up. It's just choosing Him over being alone. Isaiah 41:10, do not be afraid, for I am with you. Don't be discouraged, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. So if anything in this episode resonated with you, I want you to hear this clearly. You're not behind. You're not broken. You don't have to pretend your way through faith. If you're looking for gentle, faith-centered support as you navigate pressure mental health in real life. I just want to remind you, I do offer free coaching resources and no pressure conversations to help you take your next steady step. And I'll have my email listed in the show notes, and just feel free to reach out to me. So anyway, talk to y'all later. Bye.